Tonight, facing issues of affordability, tariffs, and security, Mark Carney's new cabinet and some big promises.
Canadians voted for big change, not small change. They voted for big change.
His team is in place and Canadians are watching. New humanitarian warning for Gaza, acute malnutrition, the threat of starvation, the risk of famine.
Israel is deliberately and unashamedly imposing inhumane conditions on civilians.
And digging into the data on the Liberal promise to increase military spending.
There's a whole series of things the Army's trying to buy that it's had money for since 2017 and hasn't really moved very far.
Diddy Combs lays out the challenges.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. Canadian voters allowed Mark Carney the chance to take on their concerns. Now it's time to govern. And today the Prime Minister unveiled an overhauled cabinet, a clearer picture of how he's going to meet his promises. The new cabinet has 28 ministers supported by 10 secretaries of state who will attend meetings as needed. There is regional representation, including MPs from every province and from across the north. A team, the Prime Minister says, that is primarily focused on the economy. Mark Carney may also be going for a different look than Justin Trudeau, but as Ashley Burke shows us, several familiar faces are back in top jobs.
Ready to go.
The Prime Minister remaking his team to try and draw a distinction between himself and his predecessor.
I, Rebecca Chartrand.
Mark Carney appointing 28 cabinet ministers.
Moi, Marjorie Michel.
Plus 10 more junior ministers called secretaries of state. A two-tiered model different from Justin Trudeau's.
Our government will deliver its mandate for change with urgency and determination. We're going to deliver that mandate with a new team, purpose-built for this hinge moment in Canada's history.
Roughly half of that team new to cabinet, including new MPs, like Mandy Galmasti, a former Grand Chief, now Minister of Indigenous Services, and Gregor Robertson, the former Vancouver mayor, a city with a major housing crisis, now the housing minister.
It's ridiculous to put that on the people of Vancouver or me as the mayor. This has happened across the country.
But Carney has kept some key ministers from Trudeau's government. His former Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, is keeping her job as Transport and Internal Trade Minister. Dominic LeBlanc will stay on as Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs and keep his responsibility for Canada-U.S. trade relations. And François-Philippe Champagne will remain the Finance Minister.
We need to balance experience and new perspectives. Canadians voted for big change, not small change. They voted for big change.
He appointed Trudeau's old team and Trudeau's old advisors.
But the Conservatives' leader went down the list of Trudeau-era ministers one by one, taking aim at them.
In all, 14 Trudeau ministers are now in Carney's cabinet. It's more of the same when Canada needs real change.
Carney defended the mix of new and old ministers and says that he wants to run what he calls a true cabinet government, where his team will have the authority to lead and make decisions, setting the expectations high.
Ashley, obviously there's a lot to get done. What's your sense of the next steps?
Well, Adrian, his new cabinet will meet for the first time tomorrow, and they do have a lot to get done. Carney wants to move forward with the middle-class tax cut by Canada Day. He says the Parliament will have to approve it, and they'll need to find 2 extra votes from other parties to get it through. He's also headed to Rome on Friday for the new Pope's inaugural Mass.
All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa. A key focus for this cabinet will be the trade war with the United States. Kate McKenna shows us how taking on Donald Trump may have influenced Carney's picks.
Fantastic.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's new cabinet signals change at home and abroad.
The person who has the relationship you asked specifically about the White House, of course, is the Prime Minister with the President. And I'm the Prime Minister, so I play that role.
These 3 ministers were in the White House just last week. But only one, New Brunswick's Dominic LeBlanc, is keeping a U.S.-facing portfolio.
I, Gary Anandasangari, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear
Scarborough MP Gary Anand-Desangari takes over public safety from David McGuinty, and Oakville MP Anita Anand replaces longtime Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly. Joly is going to industry. She says it's not a demotion.
I'm leaving the diplomatic front of the trade war with the U.S. to the economic front.
The Prime Minister says he plans to lead on U.S.-Canada relations himself.
Obviously, in my role, I take ultimate responsibility for it.
One of Donald Trump's economic advisors told an American television network that Canada's diplomatic challenges came from the top.
I think that Justin Trudeau and the president didn't exactly get along, and Canada kept making it worse and worse with their rhetoric.
There's been a sense that Mark Carney has been able to win some respect from Donald Trump.
But despite the relationship reset, there are no signs of the U.S. president backing down on his tariff threats. The Conservative leader says that needs to be the priority.
We want to get a deal done to end the tariff insanity, to restore stability and bring about the greatest friendship, restore the greatest friendship that the world has ever known between two different countries.
There are other signs that Donald Trump's tariff threats helped shape this cabinet. It includes 3 trade ministers, a nod to Mark Carney's promise to rely less on the United States while also growing the Canadian economy. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
So let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. So Rosie, we've talked about some of the messages the Prime Minister is trying to send with this cabinet. What does it tell you about the direction he's trying to take the country?
Adrian, I'm going to point to 2 examples, I think, that sort of speak to the moment we're in. First, trade. Canada now has a Minister of International Trade, a Minister of Internal Trade, and a Minister of Canada-U.S. Trade. The Prime Minister has made repeated promises to build up domestic trade between provinces, to find other trading partners around the world, and to see, obviously, what else can be done with the United States moving forward. The other example is the presence of Canada's North in this ministry. There is a minister from northern Manitoba in charge of Canada's North. The Minister of Indigenous Services is from the North, the Cree Nation in Quebec, and there's a minister from the Northwest Territories. All of those things matter because the government says it wants to shore up Canada's security and sovereignty in the North and try to develop some new trading corridors.
So, Rosie, I think what we also took away from that is that the Prime Minister also laid out some very high expectations.
Yeah, high expectations, Adrian, for his cabinet, saying they should be empowered to lead and take decisive action, meaning these cabinet ministers are going to have to meet some of these big goals he's given them. High expectations for himself. Carney's about to come face to face with the reality of a minority parliament and a public service that may not want to get things done as quickly as he does. So in doing all of this, he's raised the expectation of Canadians, and now he will be judged on how he meets them.
All right, Rosie, thank you.
Thanks.
The judicial recount for the Ontario riding of Milton East Halton Hills South has now begun. So the Liberal candidate was declared the winner by just 29 votes after the results were validated by Elections Canada. That result overturned its initial call, which had the Conservatives winning the seat by a narrow margin. A similar judicial recount last week overturned a result in the Quebec riding of Terrebonne, giving the Liberals 1 more seat. Well, a celebrated deal for Canada's automotive industry is now on hold. Honda Canada says it will push back $15 billion worth of electric vehicle investments. Magda Gebrselassie takes it from there.
Just a year ago, Honda was celebrating a bright future for fully Canadian-made electric vehicles. A $15 billion investment cheered on by Canada's then Prime Minister and Ontario's Premier.
It's the largest auto investment in Canadian history.
A jewel in the plan, a retooled EV assembly plant and a battery manufacturing plant. As many as 1,000 new jobs. Now it's all on pause for about 2 years.
Disappointment, for sure. Uncertainty, for sure. But also, making sure you're doing everything and anything you can.
In a statement, Honda Canada points to a recent slowdown of the EV market. A reality this expert says is due to a number of factors.
The 2 big reasons why people don't buy EVs, one is the price. The price is still expensive, the purchase price. And when you think about range anxiety, the charging infrastructure play a very big role. And that's where I feel that the government has not done enough.
This news comes amid uncertainty tied to U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policies. Honda is already forecasting a nearly 59% drop in its yearly profit.
The political world has certainly changed.
This industry spokesperson says that doesn't mean an end for global investments in EVs.
Globally, there's been probably $1.5 trillion spent on migrating the product from internal combustion engine to electrified technology, so companies aren't going to walk away from those investments.
For Honda, investments that included $5 billion in provincial and federal incentives, and officials aren't giving up.
Because I want to understand how we can be in solution mode.
When I've talked to Honda, they've promised us they're going to continue on with their expansion.
One unanswered question, will this stalled EV project affect Canada's mandate that all new vehicles be zero emissions by 2035? Magda Gebre-Selassie, CBC News, Toronto.
A dangerous fire in Manitoba is forcing people to evacuate a provincial park.
Whoa!
Okay, very close call there. That fire in the eastern part of the province, one of 4 out-of-control fires currently burning. A number of parks are under local states of emergency. Ontario has sent a water bomber, and dozens of firefighters from BC are there to help. Well, Donald Trump's emphasis on trade deals was highlighted again today as he continued the first official overseas visit of his second presidency. He's in Saudi Arabia, and so is Chris Brown.
The Saudis gave Donald Trump more than just a lavish welcome. It was a full-on, most important person in the entire world welcome. It was helped by the fact that Trump brought along the CEOs of many of the world's richest companies with him to Riyadh.
I like you too much.
Trump was effusive in his praise for the kingdom's 39-year-old de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. MBS, as he's known, is credited with increasing social freedoms for Saudis and infusing a can-do business attitude. He in turn praised Trump, not just for signing $600 billion in trade deals, but also for trying to bring security to the Middle East.
Saudi Arabia is trying to move from being an oil-dominated economy to one that's much more diverse, and it needs U.S. help to build some of its grand mega projects that are at the center of the transformation.
Saudi's leader showed off the replicas of some of the extravagant buildings in the works.
That's pretty amazing, right?
Which Trump, the developer, seemed engrossed by. But the biggest round of applause for the U.S. president came not for a comment on Saudi Arabia, but on Syria.
I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
That's a move the Saudis and some European countries have already done, even though Syria's new president al-Shara was once part of extremist groups. Trump may meet with him here Wednesday.
Sitting 40-50 minutes on.
This political analyst says most Saudis will feel Trump nailed his visit here.
I love what I heard. This is the first American president that I feel he really knows the nitty-gritty of this region, country by country. He knows the challenges, and he really identified the whole region.
That might surprise Trump's critics, but what he didn't mention was human rights, which many critics in the West say are still an issue despite MBS opening up Saudi society. But for this upbeat visit, the focus appeared to be avoiding anything that soured the feel-good mood. Chris Brown, CBC News in Riyadh.
A warning tonight from the World Health Organization. The humanitarian conditions in Gaza are dire. Food shortages are killing some children, and there is a risk of famine. We have new images from inside Gaza, and Sarah Levitt has the details.
These children are chanting, "We want to eat, we want to live." The World Health Organization says Gaza faces malnutrition and starvation.
These are the types of characteristics or the kinds of metrics that ultimately move a country into a famine situation.
The UN defines famine by measuring the level of malnutrition and hunger-related deaths in a population. In March, Israel blocked all shipments of aid into Gaza. That followed the end of a ceasefire in the conflict that started when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, killing about 1,200 people and taking 251 hostage.
We will surely
On Tuesday, the blockade was condemned at the UN Security Council.
Israel is deliberately and unashamedly imposing inhumane conditions on civilians.
According to the Hamas-run health ministry, 57 children have reportedly died from the effects of malnutrition since March. A UN-backed assessment also found another 71,000 under the age of 5 could be at risk of acute malnutrition if things don't change within a year. Israel rejects those numbers. The mother of 6-year-old Najwa Hajjaj says she fears her child is on the edge of death. There is a U.S. plan backed by Israel to get food in. A private charity would distribute it, and the Israeli military would control access to it. But the UN calls it a weaponization of aid.
That would be very much in violation of our humanitarian principles in terms of our ability to act with impartiality and neutrality.
At Nazar Hospital, people clean up after an overnight airstrike. Israel says attacks won't slow down until a deal is made, one that sees all remaining hostages released. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
The RCMP says it's interviewing dozens of people as they search for 2 children in Nova Scotia who've been missing for almost 2 weeks. The Mounties also say they've received more than 180 tips from the public. 6-year-old Lily Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack are believed to have wandered away from their home about 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax in Lansdowne Station. The search was scaled back on May the 7th and has covered 5.5 square kilometers of wooded terrain. Well, at the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players, the cross-examination of the complainant is now complete. She was questioned for 7 days by 5 defense lawyers. The CBC's Katie Nicholson has the details, including some graphic testimony.
What do we want? A crowd nearly 36 strong for EM, who inside underwent a 7th and final day of cross-examination. The Crown alleges that EM, whose name is protected by a publication ban, was sexually assaulted in a hotel room by 5 former World Junior hockey players in June of 2018. Michael McLeod, Alex Fermenton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote have all pleaded not guilty. The last of the 5 defense teams, Foote's lawyer, Juliana Greenspan, challenged EM's account of how drunk she was, producing replicas of the strappy stilettos she wore and danced in all night, even handing one to the jury. EM had previously testified she was naked in the room when multiple players entered. She testified every time she tried to get dressed and leave, the men would lead her away from the door. Greenspan suggested EM was not serious about leaving the room because she didn't try to put on her shoes. Greenspan said, "You were putting on an act to say, 'Okay, I'm leaving,' to put the focus back on you. Do you agree?" "No, not at all," EM replied. Cal Foote is accused of doing the splits naked across EM's face, something court has heard referred to as his party trick. Greenspan suggested he was wearing shorts or pants. EM responded, "He put his full penis and testicles on my face." Greenspan then said EM wanted to turn this party trick into sexual contact, but he pulled away. EM paused, looking shocked, then said, "I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I was really thrown off by the term party trick." EM isn't finished just yet. Next, she faces more questions from the Crown to address any issues or clarifications from those 7 days of cross-examination. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
After nearly 30 years behind bars for murdering their parents, the Menendez brothers may be a step closer to freedom. Today, a California judge resentenced Eric and Lyle Menendez to 50 years to life. Late tonight, their lawyers said they are immediately eligible for parole, something that may be decided at a hearing in June. Both were originally sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And prosecutors have called a key witness in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial.
It was a long day. I'm just super proud of her.
Her testimony and what's next in the case. Using artificial intelligence to compete against U.S. lettuce producers.
We have sensors that measure temperature, light intensity, humidity levels.
The innovative approach on Canadian land. And a young explorer with a very old discovery.
Finding something like that is basically like 1 in 10,000.
We're back in 2. Kim Kardashian testified in a Paris courtroom about the night in 2016 she was robbed at gunpoint by men who stole jewelry worth millions. She says they were dressed in police uniforms and that she feared she would be sexually assaulted and killed. 10 people are on trial. And the jury in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs started hearing testimony from his ex-girlfriend. As Chris Reyes tells us, her evidence was emotional and graphic.
Cassie Ventura was just 21 years old and an aspiring music artist when she met Sean Diddy Combs. It would be a tumultuous relationship. Now 38, Ventura is taking the stand at his trial. She broke down in tears as she gave one explicit detail after another about their 11-year affair, full of sex, drugs, and violence. All of it central to the case against Combs, who's accused of using his business enterprise for sex trafficking, prostitution, and to commit other crimes, including kidnapping and arson. Ventura opened her testimony by describing what Combs would do to her when he was angry. He would smash me in my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head, she said. An instance of that violence captured on the security footage from 2016, already shown to the jury. Ventura spent much of her testimony referring to that abuse when explaining why she participated in so-called freak-offs, elaborate sexual performances allegedly orchestrated by Combs involving her and male escorts. It happened almost weekly, she said, for many years in multiple locations in the U.S. and abroad. When asked who told her where to go, what to wear, what drugs to take, and what sex acts to perform, Ventura said over and over, Sean. She called some of the experiences disgusting and humiliating. In one session, she described a male escort and Combs urinating on her. The freak-offs became a job, she said, a job she didn't want to do. Asked by the prosecutor why she did it, she said, I just didn't want anything bad to happen.
Long day. I'm just super proud of her.
Ventura's testimony will continue tomorrow. This trial is expected to last 8 weeks. If convicted, Combs could get up to life in prison. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
A Canadian company is leaning on artificial intelligence to take on U.S. lettuce producers.
Everything within this greenhouse is automated. No one touches this crop.
The pros and cons of taking humans out of the mix. Canada's attempt to build back its military could be in for some major hurdles.
Only 1 in 2 pieces of equipment for ships or airplanes are actually ready to go right now.
3 areas in need of urgent improvement. And why a Qatari gifted Air Force One may not fly.
You have to take this aircraft and rip it apart piece by piece.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Moving forward is precisely what I believe we must do.
That is Canadian actor Victor Garber in Historic Canada's latest Heritage Minute. It pays homage to Bora Laskin, a renowned legal scholar and the country's first Jewish Supreme Court Chief Justice. A champion for human rights, his thinking helped inform the judicial interpretation of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Well, as President Trump's trade war continues, a farmer in Ontario is hoping his innovative produce will help Canada become less reliant on the U.S. His lettuce is made entirely by machines, a process some think could become the way of the future. Here's Lisa Shea.
There's a major innovation happening at this greenhouse an hour north of Toronto. A family horse farm turned lettuce growers. Haven Greens says it's doing something few have done before, especially on this scale.
We get to see the full life cycle, basically.
From seeding to germination in these boxes, all the way to harvesting 10,000 pounds a day, everything is done by machines.
We have sensors that measure temperature, light intensity, humidity levels, pressure levels. Everything within this greenhouse is automated. No one touches this crop.
Not only that, the precise amount of water, light, nutrients, all decided by artificial intelligence. Canadians are looking a lot more closely at where our food comes from. We still rely a lot on the U.S. 90% of our leafy greens come from south of the border, so Wilmot says he hopes his operation will give Canadians another homegrown option.
Did I see the trade war coming? No, I did not. But I was sick and tired of effectively old, slimy, smelly lettuce.
That's super crunchy.
The federal government and several provinces have invested millions into automating food production. It requires less labor and reduces greenhouse gas emissions with fewer trucks needed to haul produce across the continent. Some scientists say the expensive technology has to be made available to everyone.
We have to keep small farmers also in mind because we don't want to, we want them to operate and thrive in this situation.
There are other concerns about using AI in agriculture.
We know now, right, the environmental costs in terms of data storage, the energy costs.
At Haven Greens, Wilmot says he's using solar energy, recapturing emissions, aiming to be net zero in a couple of years, betting produce like his is the future of farming. Lisa Shing, CBC News, King City, Ontario.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world.
I don't want to be part of this.
Unmasking who's behind Mr. Deepfakes, a notorious AI-generated porn site. We brought you the story last week, but tonight we reveal how CBC News' Visual Investigations Unit tracked down the alleged kingpin. But first, gifted from Qatar as the next Air Force One, a multi-million-dollar jet called a flying palace is raising some ethical questions for Donald Trump.
He's forgotten his responsibility to this nation.
Eli Glasner looks at constitutional questions and why some worry about possible security implications.
They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, 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 don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much.
When is a plane more than a plane? When the plane is a very lavish gift from the nation of Qatar. The thing is, the president already has a plane, actually two. Air Force One brought the president to Saudi Arabia. It's one of two heavily modified Boeing 747s that have flown every president since George Herbert Walker Bush.
You know, we're very disappointed that it's taken Boeing so long to build a new Air Force One.
But listen to Trump and it sounds like the president would like a new ride. He even had a sneak peek of the potential gift when he toured the Qatar aircraft in Florida last February.
And you look at some of the Arab countries and the planes they have parked alongside of the United States of America plane, it's like from a different planet.
Enter the Qatari royal family and a plan to give the 747 described as a palace in the sky to the Trump administration. But the Constitution has something to say about that. The emolument clause says in part, no person shall accept any present from any king, prince, or foreign state. But Trump says the plane isn't for him.
If we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture.
According to reports, the current U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who lobbied for Qatar in the past, signed off on the deal, which would see the luxury aircraft become the property of Trump's presidential library or foundation before the end of his term.
Presidential library.
Quite the parting gift, says this law professor.
Presidents raise money for their foundations. Presidents sponsor, events to support their foundations and their libraries. It's possible that they'll be able to do this to skirt the legal problem, but it is in spirit and in effect, a gift to him of just the kind that the Emoluments Clause was designed to prevent.
And then there's the massive security issues.
And the notion that somehow we're going to kind of pick up an airplane from the Qataris and turn this into Air Force One is almost preposterous.
This ex-CIA intelligence officer says Air Force One is more than a high-flying limo. It's a mobile command communication center, an aircraft designed to withstand electromagnetic attacks and thwart enemy aircraft. Not only would the opulent aircraft need to be retrofitted by the Pentagon, but then there's the security considerations.
You're worried about things such as, listening devices, things that could knock out security and counterintelligence systems. And so in reality, if we are going to uphold current security standards, you have to take this aircraft and rip it apart piece by piece.
While Trump sees nothing wrong with the gift,
I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person, say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane.
there's also the question of what the Qataris get in return.
It either subtly or not so subtly has an influence. I mean, that's why people give gifts like this.
Already the deal has led to pushback from far-right influencer Laura Loomer, who calls the deal a stain on the administration.
This kind of skeezy stuff.
And podcaster Ben Shapiro.
Taking sacks of goodies from people who support Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al Jazeera, all the rest. That's not America first.
Washington's relationship with the oil-rich nation of Qatar is complicated. There was a time when Trump himself called out Qatar, which has been linked to funding for Hamas.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism.
But times have changed. The Trump family are developing many new projects in the region. And so Trump, for his first official trip, bypassed traditional Democratic destinations for Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates.
He feels comfortable amongst these kind of rulers, and of course he just admires one thing more than all else, which is wealth, and the Qataris certainly have it.
Eli, I'm curious about something you said earlier, that Trump had mentioned other new Air Force One options under construction.
Yeah, those have been a work in progress for years. Delivery dates have changed. They're now being promised for 2027. So in theory, the Qatari jet would replace the old ones until the new Boeing aircraft arrive. Of course, that's assuming the Pentagon can retrofit this new jet in time. Trump would like it for next fall.
I bet. Next up, congressional authority?
Yeah, and already the Democrats are protesting loudly. Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer is now talking about holding up Trump's justice nominees if he doesn't get more answers. But the experts I talked to say the only thing that can really ground Trump's plan is public opinion.
All right, Eli Glasner. While Trump pushes to reset relations on his Middle East trip, his rhetoric over this country's sovereignty has forced a rethink on Canada's defense spending. The NATO requirement is 2% of GDP. David Combs shows us how hard it is to get there.
Ramping up defense spending became a key issue during the federal election. Now comes the hard part. To build back Canada's military capability, we face several challenges. The first is money. To reach the NATO minimum of 2% of GDP, Canada needs to find up to $15 billion extra every year. Polling suggests a majority accept or support paying more in tax to give the military more funding. And that brings us to the next challenge, using the new money to rapidly buy new military equipment.
Our procurement system has been built to operate in a way that's slow, and we've lost that perspective about the importance of actually buying gear for the military as we satisfy all these other considerations and concerns. You're not going to get there without a serious change to business as it's usually happening in Ottawa.
Yeah, we don't even have to talk about ships or planes, the expensive stuff. I mean, what's the story with the pistols? Didn't they take forever?
Pistols took forever, truck projects took forever. I mean, there's a whole series of things the Army's trying to buy that it's had money for since 2017 and hasn't really moved very far. We have, for reasons that just astonish me, not been able to sign a contract to make more ammunition in this country, despite having ammunition production facilities, a clear need in Ukraine, and a clear need in Canada's own armed forces.
Next challenge, Canada's military is already really far behind. Canada has sent vast quantities of its own weapons and equipment to Ukraine, depleting our own resources without replacing them immediately.
So we actually don't have a lot on the shelf. The Defense Department's own statistics basically show that only 1 in 2 pieces of equipment, or ships, or airplanes, are actually ready to go right now.
Canada's frigates, the primary ship in the Navy, are older than most of the sailors on board. Same can be said for the pilots of CF-18 fighter aircraft, and in both of those roles, there aren't enough people either. That strikes at what the military calls readiness, the ability to deploy soldiers and equipment when and where needed. it's supposed to be at 90%. Instead, it's been at 40. In no small part because the Canadian military is short 12,000 people. And the federal government had already proposed growing its ranks. By that measure, it needs vastly more personnel.
You can't flick a switch and turn somebody into a professional soldier overnight. How long does it actually take to price them into the system?
Well, it takes a while. You know, there's recruitment, there's basic training. It's not just land, sea, and air anymore. There's cyberspace, land, sea, and air. So there's new forms of training that need to be developed, new equipment, new capacity, new security frameworks and security strategies that have to chart out the pathway.
In short, strengthening Canada's military is not just about spending money. It would be a gargantuan effort that would have to be approached with urgency, at the same time recognizing they could move fast on some things, but other aspects would take years to restore military capability.
Taking on this task is former fighter pilot Stephen Fuhr. The BC MP was appointed Secretary of State for Defense Procurement today. Well, a CBC News investigation has determined an Ontario pharmacist is behind the most notorious deepfake porn site in the world.
Things on paper seem very normal for David Doe. However, really, he's been living a double life.
How the team tracked him down. Next. A pharmacist by day and an alleged porn king by night. CBC News' visual investigations team exposes the creator behind a prominent deepfake porn site.
In the Instagram profile of the hospital, he's a good colleague, but then he has this dark side.
Eric Cito shows us the tools used to track down the alleged mastermind and the moment they found him.
That's it. So we get an interesting tip the other day about who's behind the most notorious deepfake porn website in the world, Mr. Deepfakes. For anyone who hasn't heard of this site, it's a place where you can find tens of thousands of videos, AI-generated porn of celebrities, even regular people. Anyone can have their identity stolen and turned into AI porn. And for a few $100s, users on the site will create custom videos of anyone, including violent scenes like these.
This is what it looks like to see yourself naked against your will being spread all over the internet.
I've been personally targeted by this. This is sexual violence.
This is my face. It belongs to me.
I do think there needs to be definite regulation and laws. It's disturbing.
People have been trying to figure out who's behind this site for years, and the tip we get points to someone you would hardly suspect. He lives an unassuming and respectable life, has a well-paying job as a hospital pharmacist in Canada, and he's a key person behind Mr. Deepfakes. Our visual investigations team, along with open-source investigative outlet Bellingcat and Danish outlets Checkday and Politiken, spent months using digital clues and looking at public records to locate, identify, and for the first time fully reveal who is behind Mr. Deepfakes.
David, may I just talk to you right now? I'm order to
We came across your profile.
Yeah.
Safe to say that you did not consent to these videos.
No.
Keep it up.
No, absolutely not.
This is Gail Kim.
And the knockout champion, Gail Kim!
Kim is considered one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. And we found her on Mr. Deepfakes.
I haven't seen full-on videos. I actually don't want to know because it's just scary to think about these things.
The scary thing is, this can happen to anyone. There's tons of tools, even free apps, that let anyone create AI porn of anyone else. But to create higher quality deepfakes, it's a much more intense process. It requires expensive computer hardware and technical expertise. That's the content you find on Mr. Deepfakes. The website went from a few images and videos in 2018 to hosting almost 70,000 uploads by the end of 2024. At its peak, it had 650,000 users and millions of views a month. In some places like Australia, police have gone after deepfake porn creators.
Police still calling.
This is police arresting an Australian man who made deepfake porn and who was also active on Mr. Deepfakes. Sharing non-consensual deepfake porn is illegal in places like Australia, South Korea, the UK, France, the Netherlands, China, and some US states. But there's no federal ban in Canada. Right now in Canada, it's not illegal to make this stuff. Do you think we need to push through on these laws quicker? What do you think?
Yes, 100%. I do think there needs to be definite regulation.
Our team spent months trying to uncover who this person is. A person who for years managed to keep their identity secret, until now.
He had not covered his tracks very well.
It starts with this username on Mr. Deepfakes, DPFKS. Our team put that username into a searchable database of info scraped from the web, including data breaches. And it revealed passwords, a Greater Toronto Area address that's blurred out on Google Maps, and personal email addresses with this name, Zui David Doe.
David Doe lives in the well-kept suburbs outside of Toronto. He has a well-paying job. He drives a new Tesla. Things on paper seem very normal for David Doe. However, really, he's been living a double life.
Here he is on the Oak Valley Health Network's Instagram page, in the mask at the back. He's been a registered pharmacist for the past 10 years, and he makes $121,000 a year.
You can see in the Instagram profile of the hospital, he's a good colleague, but then he has this dark side.
We call and email him, but he never responds. Though we know he's opened our emails because we've attached trackers to them. So we're gonna head out to speak to him in person. But let's back up for a second, because most of you probably haven't been to this website. So we're gonna take you through what we find. In addition to celebrities like Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman, Michael Bublé, Justin Bieber, there are politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We also find private citizens, like this woman from Los Angeles who has nothing more than a social media profile on Instagram. On forums, there are naked photos of her. Some of the content we come across is really violent. This video is titled "Scarlett Johansson is strangled to death by creepy stalker."
And it can literally ruin, people's lives. And that's why things like cyberbullying happen. And, a lot of people commit suicide.
There's also money being made. Creators say they can make low quality videos for as little as $50, while others go for more than $400. And remember that username DPFKS? They created 161 videos. He posts about already having made a few Selena Gomez videos, takes requests for singers like JoJo, and he seems to take pride in his craft, admitting in one post this video is not the greatest. We've been trying to get a hold of Doe for weeks, and he hasn't responded to our emails or calls, so we're going to try to talk to him in person.
So it's just left at the stop sign up here?
It's like the second garage in, right?
Yeah, it's a few in there. That's him.
David, I can talk to you right now on recorded CBC.
I don't want to be part of this. We've been trying to talk to you for weeks about Mr. Deepfakes and your role in it, and why you do what you do. We just want to talk to you about why you do it. I know you have to go, but we want answers. We've been trying to talk to you for weeks.
Sorry?
There's
Right now?
all these people we talk to say they're humiliated, they're victimized.
The Toronto Area Hospital says David Doe is now on leave while they undertake an internal investigation. Up next, discovering a shipwreck on a trip to a provincial park.
Finding something like that was basically like 1 in 10,000.
How a father-son duo basically stumbled upon the treasure. So, you are looking at a team of archaeologists digging up a shipwreck at a Lake Huron beach in Ontario, its origins likely dating back to the 1800s. The excavation this past weekend was only possible because of the work of Lucas Aitchison, who came across the wreck during a family camping trip 2 years ago when he was only 8. Tonight, his contribution to history is our moment.
Luke, what's in here? What's in here?
So we got to the beach. I was like, Dad, I want to set up the metal detector. Dad, I want to set up the metal detector. We walked around for about like 2 minutes. Then we found the first spike to the shipwreck.
It seems crazy, but the very first spot that we went to that day, the detector went off. And we dug a little bit. I didn't think it was anything and time to move on, but Lucas was really curious. I think we were there for 3 days. You could see the shape of the wood, how it was curved, that it was definitely part of a boat. After the initial discovery, the archaeologists came out and they could verify that it was an old ship.
It was pretty crazy, to be honest. I did not expect to find a shipwreck. Finding something like that was basically like 1 in 10,000.
Oh, I think the odds might be even wilder than that. They think the ship was from, I think, a wreck around 1856, something called the St. Anthony. What do you do with a shipwreck like that? Well, if you're the archaeologist, you actually take pictures of it, map it out, and then rebury it for another 50 years to preserve it. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.